Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey.
Everybody hates everything. I don't like to start off on a down note. I try not to do anything on a down note. But we just talked a whole bunch off mic, and every conversation I have these days, mostly I walk away with the thought of everybody hates everything. And especially when it comes to, stuff you grew up with, stuff that major studios are doing, everybody hates everything. Everybody hated the new Star Wars stuff. Was I in love with it? No. Did I think it was because black women were cast? What the F are we talking about? All right. No, I didn't believe that. Did I believe the storytelling could have been better? Sure. Did I think it was the worst thing ever made? No, I did not. But buddy, let me tell you, people hated it. They love to hate it. They freaking hated it. Everybody hates everything. It's very rare that anything is released these days without people rallying against it. They rallied against too many things to name here today. If you're keeping up with modern pop culture and you like streamers and movies and, books and TV and comic books, whatever that looks like, you know what I'm talking about. It's constant. It is effing constant. And guess what? They rallied against Spider-Man. Of all things to rally against, of all things to hate. Oh, we hate that Spider-Man show. No, terrible. Oh, it's horrible. They were white. They're not anymore. And dude, for God's sake, let me just tell you this. I did not watch the series the day it dropped. I was busy. I had stuff going on, but I read those reviews and I thought, you know what? Here we go again. So I went into it not expecting a whole lot. I can't say my opinion was influenced or anything, but I was thinking, well, if this many people, all right, fine, but I'm going to watch it. I freaking love this show. I don't understand why people feel the need to destroy, to annihilate, to bomb everything that comes out these days. I just don't. If it was full of white people, everybody would love it. And I'm sorry. I love my audience and everybody that listens and downloads. I appreciate you. But if you're one of those people, shame on you. I don't understand. I don't get it. But man, are we going to talk about that here today? Boy, you better believe it. We're going to talk about this show because I, for one, happen to love this show. I think it's a breath of fresh air. I think it's great. I will get into it. But again, everybody hates everything. Sorry to be negative. Just how I feel. Before we tackle it, though, kids, let's do this. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is an American animated television series created by Jeff Trammell for the streaming service Disney Plus, based on Marvel Comics featuring the character Spider-Man. It is the 12th television series in the Marvel Cinematic Universe from Marvel Studios and is produced by Marvel Studios Animation. The series explores Peter Parker's origin story and early days as Spider-Man and is set in an alternate timeline from the main films and television series of the MCU, where Norman Osborn becomes Peter's mentor instead of Tony Stark. Trammell serves as showrunner and head writer, with Mel Zwire as supervising director. 10 episodes in the first season. The first season's already come and wrapped, and it was released on January 29th, 2025. And of course, Marvel Studios Animation and Disney Plus. And that is your lowdown for your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Phil, look, let's put all cards on the table. Besides the racist nonsense, which is hard to not think about, what is the problem here? Why would longtime fans who aren't racist, perhaps, why would they rally against this? Is so hard. Why, like, if we're being objective, what is the problem with this that you see that people might have an issue with?
I think the thing with a lot of genre content like this and what you mentioned with Star Wars is it's just hard to do something new. It's very hard for fans to accept something new when they already have something that they love. And for a lot of us that grew up in the 90s, Spider-Man the animated series was the pinnacle Spider-Man in media before the movies. And so it's going to be hard for any show to top that. And then we got a show that came pretty close in Spectacular Spider-Man, and it got canceled before we got a chance to see uh, whether it really could surpass the animated series. And so I think you have two things that people hold up on this pedestal. And if it's not those two things, some fans are like, well, I don't want it. And so you have this thing where now you said, like you had said, that they're changing race of certain characters, and they're doing a different telling of Spider-Man's mythos. And people are like, well, why? If it isn't broke, don't fix it. And it's like, sometimes it's okay for change. I don't know why a lot of people like us don't like change. And when I say people like us, I mean nerds. Nerds don't like
Yes.
change. I don't know why that is, but there's nothing wrong with change, guys. It's okay.
I seriously, I went into it with an open mind, prepared to not like it. I didn't get persuaded, but I thought, well, if this many fans are upset, then maybe it is just not good. Maybe it does fall flat. Like, you know, I just didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Dude, first off, I think the writing is fantastic. I think the fact that there's many scenes we don't even see Peter. To me, that feels like an actual plot. That feels like an actual TV show. That doesn't feel like it's a kid's cartoon. We got to make the little kids smile. Like, it feels like they're actually doing serious character work here.
Yes, I think the best thing about this is they took a lot of the best cues from the Ditko and Stan Lee stuff, and the influence is present throughout this show. And that's why some of the change doesn't bother me so much, because this feels like the spirit of those comics. This feels like the spirit of that character in so many ways. There's so many moments with Peter in costume and outside of costume where I'm like, yeah, this is Peter Parker. And there's so many other characters where they did such a great job with them, where it's just like, oh yeah, that's Norman, or uh, there's so many other characters here that I'm just like, oh, that's a great retelling of what makes this character great. The stuff we get with Doc Ock, I'm like, that's definitely Doc Ock, and the Octavius and Norman rivalry that they're already building. It's fantastic, and I'm just like, if you've read Spider-Man comics at any point, you understand what they're doing. Even if you just have an understanding of the character from the movies, there's so much here to like about this. At one point, correct me if I'm wrong, this was going to be a tie-in to the MTU Spider-Man. It was going to be his freshman year in high school.
Yeah, that is true. What happened to that?
At some point, they changed that and they decided to go in a completely different direction and go with this alternate universe version of Spider-Man. And I think that
Mhm.
that was the right call, because I think it would have handcuffed them a little bit, having to stay in the confines of stories that have already been told in the first trilogy with Marvel. You wouldn't be able to introduce some characters, or you wouldn't be able to do some things because it wouldn't have made sense. Because, like, okay, if we introduce this now, well, why haven't we seen this character at any point throughout his trilogy yet?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, dude, I do remember the news going out that it was going to be, wasn't it called first year, I think, or freshman year?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
And then it got changed to My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man,
Yeah.
which of course fits the tone of the show and the lessons that Peter learns throughout the show. But I also just love the idea that they flipped this mentorship with Tony Stark's on the head, and you add Norman Osborn here, because that changes the dynamic in so many ways. Um, and they tell this great retelling where Peter has been looking for a father figure in
Hmm.
characters for a long time. And I love the idea that Peter's best friend's dad takes such a liking to him, and he tries to be a father figure, because that's straight out of comics. But of course, Norman is not fit to fill the role that Uncle Ben left behind. We get a lot more of Uncle Ben in Peter Parker's parents here in this show as well. We got the twist in the last episode, which I did not see it coming at all.
Not at all. Jeez, where was that coming from?
Yeah, if you did not notice, spoiler alert, we did get a cameo from Peter Parker's dad at the very end, Swerve, and he's voiced by Josh Keaton.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What a great moment. They do so many cool things here. I can just gush on and on about like the character building they do in the show, the world building that they do, um, the way that Strange is present in just the 2 episodes he's in, and it works perfectly with the stories they're trying to tell here, the world they're trying to build around MCU. Even when we see Iron Man briefly, it works so well with what they're doing.
You know, they made it known very early that this is in a universe where there's more than just Spider-Man, because Aunt May has Iron Man hanging from her mirror in her car. And I'm like, all right, because when Doctor Strange shows up, nobody seems to know who Doctor Strange is. I'm like, well, maybe this isn't. Maybe this is, I don't know what I'm seeing. But like, then we come to find like Iron Man actually shows up. You're like, all right, they are in a universe where these characters are real, or, you know, these people are alive, but it's just a different concept, different multiverse, I guess.
Yes. And we get more of what they did in MCU very well with trying to prioritize the creation of the super soldier serum, trying to duplicate that. And that's such a big part of Norman's motivations throughout the show. Uh, Man, Norman is great in this show.
So good.
He's fantastic. At one point, he gets you to believe, like, wait a minute, this guy might be all right.
Yeah.
But the longer the show goes on, it's like, oh yeah, that's our Norman.
It's kind of like if Luke had been mentored by Count Dooku instead of Obi-Wan. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not gonna turn out well. Like it's you know, that's kind of the feeling I had going through this. By the way, the idea of turning it on its head, and you say, well, it's not Tony, it's Norman that does it. I mean, it does bring like a whole different perspective. Was this done in the books that I'm not aware of, like in a certain run or something?
I believe it's done in I think it's the Chip Zdarsky run. I could be wrong, but I know that they've done this before with Norman, bringing him in as a apprentice of Speak, and they've done some of the same beats, even the stuff that they're doing with Lonnie Lincoln. I believe that's in a comic as well. I just can't remember which run it is. I want to say it's Chip Zdarsky, but I could be wrong.
Lonnie Lincoln stuff hit me out of nowhere too. I didn't see that coming as well. I love how that they have switched everything up. Like we're just used to Flash Thompson hating Peter and coming after him all the time. And we're used to MJ and we're used to Gwen. And they have really turned everything upside down here. Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that it's different. And like, I don't have heartburn like some people do when it comes to, well, this is a Spider-Man I grew up with. Well, then don't watch it. Go watch another Spider-Man that you did grow up with. You know what I mean?
The funny thing about this is, several times throughout the show, I very much felt like this was the Spider-Man that I grew up with. They
Ah,
do this brilliant thing with the opening credits, where the opening credits always change a little bit, and
yeah.
at the end, there's a different splash page or there's a different cover, and it makes you feel like a kid buying comic books. Um, to the point of the very first Spider-Man comic I ever bought was during the Identity Crisis thing, and on the cover is Spider-Man wearing the Hornet costume that he wears in this show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was the very first Spider-Man comic I ever bought. So when I saw the Hornet costume, I got very excited for that. That was like, this is my childhood. I remember buying that book from like a 7-Eleven. Um, Also, stuff like bringing in the Future Foundation costume. I thought that was cool. I thought it was a cool nod to the Hickman stuff.
Yeah.
Um, there's a few things here that they did, like kind of smart nods to, uh, without changing too much of his mythos, but also like if you're a fan of this character, you know where this came from. I mean, little small things like the design for Peter in the show with the hoodie and the yellow sweater. Uh, that's almost exactly the Ditko design with him with the blazer and the yellow sweater under it.
Ah, good job. Yeah.
Even like stuff they do with the opening credits to hint at these things, because if you are a fan of these characters and you hear names like Lonnie Lincoln, when they show Lonnie Lincoln in the opening credits, I don't know if you noticed this, um, when he's like smiling and waving at the screen, and then like the color changes over him, it's the color scheme for Tombstone.
I'm going back right now. Tell me how in the world I missed that.
It's like a pale, he turns like a pale blue color momentarily. I noticed it one episode. I was like, that's so cool.
Ah, I see. Yeah, it's true. Wow. I mean, the fact that he's there and that he becomes Tombstone, man, I just like switching things up. And look, if they were to come along and say, this is Spider-Man, everybody suck it. This is what we're going to do in the Holland movies. We don't care. We don't care what y'all think. This is the books. We're changing everything.
Yeah.
I can't stop them. They can do whatever. But to me, Phil, the moment I'm told this is a different version, I'm like, you know what? I'm cool. And I would have been cool anyway. But the people who aren't cool, it's not the same version. Why do you care so much?
Change is fine, guys. There's so many things that are fun about this show, and it made me feel like a kid discovering these things again.
Mm,
I don't know if you had the same thought. The very first episode I watched, the opening credits is great. I mean, I talked
yeah.
about how the opening credits changed, but the theme song is fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
Of
Yeah.
course, it plays off of the original Spider-Man animated series. Because I mean, almost every Spider-Man anything since that theme song has used that theme song in some way.
For
Uh,
sure.
but I thought that was a great way to repurpose the theme song. But then at the end of the show, it kind of makes you feel like those 90s Marvel Comics shows where they had the ending credits, but the music just keeps going and going.
Mm.
I was sitting there like, this can't just be me, right? Because they used to have that during X-Men. When X-Men went off, it had the music going and it would show you like the character profiles, and they kind of do the same thing here.
It's true. They do. Yeah. There's a lot of, I don't know. I think for fans who are paying attention, they give you a lot to like as fan service. I mean, to your point from the blue and yellow that Peter wears, absolutely a wink and a nod. And other things they do here as well, that music notwithstanding. I mean, just effing great, man.
Yeah. You can feel a lot of Stan's touches on this show, and you can feel a
Yeah.
lot of Stan's influences. And I mean, a big thing about the show and Spider-Man mythos is he gets these powers, and then it doesn't matter what he does, all of the people around him are affected in some way
Yep.
by it.
Yep.
And they do such a good job of showing like how his friend group changes and how he progressively gets more and more enemies along the way by just trying to do the right thing. Um, I think that's what makes the stuff with Lonnie so interesting, because they do this great parallel between them throughout the show of Peter just trying to do the right thing, and Lonnie in his own way is just trying to do the right thing as well, but he's going down a completely different path.
Completely different. Yeah. Well, look, kids, we've got, there's only like 84 people on the voice cast. Man, it's a big voice cast. So I don't know if we're going to be able to physically name every single person, but we can absolutely do the main cast. And I'll be honest, a lot of some of the voice actors I absolutely recognize, others I do not. Hudson, I know it's spelled Thames, but also is the Thames River in England spelled that way. So I'm going to guess and say it's Hudson Thames as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. I don't know anything about this guy. Do you?
I don't either, but I think that he fits the tone of what the MCU is already doing with Tom Holland. He kind of sounds very similar. The design for the character is very similar to Tom Holland as well. I think it works. There's enough here to make him look like kind of a blend between the Ditko era Peter Parker and Tom Holland, and the voice I think fits perfectly.
He's been working since 2006, and he did the voice of Peter and Spider-Man in What If, replacing Tom Holland.
Yeah, I think that's part of why he fits, because, like I said, he sounds close enough to Tom Holland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, Tom's American accent that he does.
sure. Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, it's gonna be like The Walking Dead for too long, right? Everyone's British. Uh, yeah, he did What If in 2021, Ghosts in 2021. Um, yeah, gosh, man, he a lot of credits here of stuff he's done on TV and in movies. I think he sounds great. And I did you read the interview? There was a headline like the same week the show dropped, where I think that his quote was, "I was afraid it was going to be some woke stuff."
Yeah, I did see that.
That didn't sound good.
I was like, oh, why would he say that? And Jeff, the showrunner, did a very good job in the press of cleaning it up and saying, well, maybe he didn't mean it the way it sounded, but boy, that optic was not great.
Yeah.
Oof.
I won't soapbox anymore. I just
Yeah,
don't understand why people care so much.
don't
Jesus.
don't let me get into the rant of how people misuse the word woke and what it initially meant, and now what people have transformed it to mean. I hate it.
Butchered it. Woke just describes anything that involves treating people fairly at this point. And people don't like that because they like to be the ones in charge and they don't like it when other people are happy doing stuff that they're not doing. So that's woke, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Initially, if people don't know, the term "stay woke" was something that Black people used to say, basically, just stay aware.
Mhm.
Just stay aware of what's happening around you. Just that's what initially that meant, and it's been bastardized into something of a derogatory thing. And I don't understand when that happened, but now it's so ingrained into what a lot of these people are saying online and a lot of these political talking head stuff. And it's nauseating to listen to because it's like you don't even know where this term initially came from.
Well, I mean, look, we've taken everything else from African Americans there, Phil.
Yeah.
Sorry. We took music and everything else. So I guess we may as well take everything that is said to. That's kind of what white people do.
Yeah. Very American thing to do.
Yes.
Take something that initially meant something else and change it into something else. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't. Again, it's just it's hard to not get fairly political when we talk about stuff like this. But you know, besides that weird effing comment, and by the way, not that I make any decisions here or anything, but this voice actor, while he's doing a great job, possibly should be reminded you are a voice actor and you can be replaced. So like, dude, if we've seen Marvel before, be like, yeah, you just knock it off. Better quit talking. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. And honestly, dude, if he's toxic, I'm not saying he is, but if he were to be that kind of individual, I don't know if you'd want him around to begin with, man.
No. Yeah, he did a great job. Uh,
Sure.
I enjoyed him a lot in the first season, so hopefully that was just a myth and a otherwise good press cycle for them.
Yeah, good call. Let's see. As Aunt May, we also have, let's see, Carrie Walgren, I think, um, as uh, as Aunt May, and she also voices Roxana Volkov, the Russian criminal. So she's pulling double duty, as a lot of voice actors do in animation.
Hmm.
Let's see. I can't say that I know a lot of her work either, but she's been working for a while, and yeah, she's. Let's see how long she's been. Yeah, it goes back a ways. Her filmography dates back to 2002, so she's been in the business for a while. Done a lot of voiceover work. So yeah. Um, is this close enough to the Marissa Tomei and Tom Holland dynamic, you think, in this show?
Yeah, you could definitely tell that's what they're going for. The voice actor is very similar to Marissa. The character design they use is clearly based on Marissa Tomei and the
Mhm.
younger Aunt May. I think just like whoever did the design for like her face and like the way that like her face is drawn, it's like spot on of those old Ditko drawings. Like that splash page that they show at one point with her just her face on it with her smile and everything, I was like, that looks like a Ditko drawing.
Yeah, it does.
But yes, I think she's great. I think that they do such a great job of recreating what works with Marissa and Tom from the movies, their relationship and how they talk to each other, how they do the same thing that they do in the movie. Of every time that they talk to each other, they say "I love you" before they walk away. Just
Mm.
like even in the first few episodes, when you get a bit more of their relationship that we got, and we get more of like him feeling bad for certain situations he's putting her in because Bent passed away. If they outright say the stuff with Ben here in a way that they don't in the movies, I think it adds even more to their relationship. I think it makes it work even more.
I agree with that, and plus that they can go there in the show, Phil, because they've not went there in the films, at least the latest version of the films. So they've got room to explore that they haven't explored yet.
Yes.
Mm.
The episode when he comes back with the broken arm
Oh
and they
yeah,
have the conversation, it's so good, which just such a great sell of just why May is so important to him. Um, yeah, great stuff. I think she did a great job in all of the episodes where she was a focal point.
yeah, I agree. Really well done. So they have chosen again uh, to sort of replace his best friend, which is fine.
Mhm.
But Grace Song as Nico Minoru, is this a character from the books that I'm not aware of?
Yes, Nico is a
Ah.
hero character from the Runaways. I noticed that right away.
Oh,
First episode
what?
where
How'd I miss that, dude? That's crazy. She totally is. Wow.
yeah, first episode where they showed her with the amulet and they started doing the mystic stuff
Mm.
immediately. I was like, oh, they're doing Nico right away. And the tie to Doctor Strange and to have all three of them in that same episode. But they did something brilliant here where they make you think they're going to go with the mystic origin for Spider-Man because the
Mm.
spider drops out of a portal. And so initially, if you've been a Spider-Man fan long enough, there's a divide between fans. There's some fans that believe that Spider-Man should stay science fiction and street level. It should not veer anywhere else. But during the JMS stuff, we got a lot of the Mystic Spider Totem stuff,
Hmm.
and a lot of fans did not like that. So when we got the spider coming out of the portal, I was like, oh, they're going to lean into some of the Mystic stuff here, which was a complete red herring. I thought that was a smart way to play off of those two versions of his mythos.
Mm. Ezekiel, am I getting that right? That one character in the books?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ezekiel and the whole spider totem stuff, which
Yeah.
played into the Spider Verse stuff that Dan Slott got later. Uh, there have been writers that have done good things with the mystical stuff. Uh, it's not always my cup of tea, but I think there are good things that came from the JMS run. Is it my favorite run? Probably not, but you know, eh, we're not always gonna like everything that's put out.
Yeah. I wasn't like, I collect a lot of that run too, a lot of that run. But like when that happened, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of like it's weird comparison. It's kind of taking the Silver Surfer and putting him in Omaha. Like, I mean, yeah, I guess you could, but that's not really him. Like, I don't know. I don't think for me, I don't think Spider Man. I think Spider Man tagging along on an Avengers mission, seeing Spider Man in space in the movies was effing wild. Like for me, like I'm like, wow, this is really above and beyond what I expected to see this character do in the movies. But uh, I don't know. I think anything other than that's maybe a stretch.
Yeah, of course we got the infamous Morlun fight from the JMS run, which is great.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, even some of the stuff with Morlun. Eh. But again, you can't complain too much because a great writer will always find a way to use those things. And if Dan Slott did not take the stuff from that run and Morlun and turn that into Spider Verse, a lot of things may not have happened.
That's true. That's fair. Yeah. Um, yeah. Again, I'd be willing to wait and see, and I don't know if they'll go down that road again. But I'm with you. I think it was a nice little bait and switch, perhaps.
Yeah, great bait and switch. And when we got the origin of where the spider came from, I thought that was very smart how they played that up. Um, Even like the time travel stuff, I thought that worked perfectly. Um, yeah, we get a nod to another very controversial Spider-Man character and story arc right away. Were you surprised by that?
Remind me, because I can't remember.
They immediately, when Peter Parker goes and joins that think tank that is working for Norman, they introduce a character that has ties to the Clone Wars, the Clone Saga. Sorry.
Yeah, and look, I think we may have talked about the Clone Saga. We've done a lot of Spider-Man on the show, as you know. I mean, I'm still torn on that, man. I mean, I guess they can get. You think they'll go in that direction? By the way,
I don't think that they would introduce him if they didn't want to at least hint at it. Because I mean, even when we get the episode where we find out that Norman is using his blood to try to recreate his powers, I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely heading into Clone Saga.
yeah, for that's exactly what I thought too. Yeah, yeah, that's I mean, it's a great story. It's a great part of the plot because he doesn't see it. What's the old saying? Like the bad guy doesn't know he's a bad guy, right? Like he doesn't understand what the problem is. Um, but yeah, again that Ben Riley stuff, man. Holy Lord, Ben Riley stuff was some of the most controversial stuff back in the day, man.
Yes, a lot of very controversial stuff from the Clone Saga.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Didn't the May Parker thing come out of that too, or no?
Uh, yes, I think
Maybe
so.
that was later. I can't remember.
Isn't that the notorious panel where Peter accidentally hits MJ? Isn't that from that arc?
I think so.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, they've well, look for not for nothing. Like I said, Phil, before they're putting so much stuff in here as fan service, for a lot of different eras, which I really appreciate. We were talking about Lonnie Lincoln / Tombstone. Eugene Bird is the voice of Lonnie Lincoln, and I was pleasantly surprised that the best football player in the school actually likes Peter. Because when they first like met up on the screen, where you're thinking, "Oh crap, here we go! They're gonna bully him like always."
Mhm. Yeah, I love that he takes a liking to him, and I love that he takes a liking to him for the very specific reason of you're of use to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can use you to get better grades here, and I thought that was smart. The Lonnie Lincoln character is great. I think his backstory is great. Um, I think him getting involved in gangs as a way to get his brother out is very endearing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they do a lot to get you to like Lonnie, and it just feels like he's a good guy that's making bad decisions, and that is so important to Spider-Man mythos. Of anybody could be Spider-Man, anybody could wear the mask, anybody can be a good person that makes the wrong decision one time that leads to something like Uncle Ben's tragic death, or somebody that makes the decision to stand up for their fellow man. And you see that embodied in Lonnie with a lot of things that he tries to do in this. Um, the episode with the Scorpion stuff, which I was very surprised that they went that far with the Scorpion stuff.
Man.
And Lonnie's like, you can't do that. People look up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And for Lonnie to already understand that because of the responsibilities that he has at home and what he went through, and as a quarterback, I thought that was a great way to again do this parallel with these two characters. And yeah, voice actor very well, but man, the work that they did to make Lonnie this complex character has been really good. It's going to be one of the most tragic turns when we do see what comes of him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I love it. I love the you know, the bit where, like you said, he's trying to save his brother. Like, this kid comes from a very good home life,
Mhm.
and everybody's fine, seems to be fine. But like, even when, you know, he saves the boss, in which by that point, you know, you could technically say, look, I saved you. I'm done. Like, if not for me, you'd be dead. But dude, he sticks around. Like he's like forming a second family here, and loses his spot on the football team. And like, man, why would you do this? Like, maybe he's searching for his place that doesn't involve football, maybe, you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's twofold. I think that he, in one way, feels like I have to be. It's exactly what he said to Peter. I have to be better because I come from a place where they expect me to be this.
Mhm.
And so I have to be better because my brother is looking at me. And so I have to be a better example for him than what's around us. And then on top of that, my parents are expecting me to be better than this. That my parents are expecting me to be the person that gets us out of here.
Mhm.
Um, but also there's this undertone here, and as somebody that's black, I totally understand what they're doing. Um, when you're black, you cannot afford to make certain mistakes. You
Mhm.
have to be the best at this. You have to be uh if you're going to be a football player, you can't just be average. You got to be the best to get out of your circumstances.
Mhm.
And so I love that he has all this responsibility, but I also think that that's part of why he started going down the wrong path because that's a lot to put on a kid. It's a
Yeah,
lot to
for
put
sure.
on a teenager to understand it's up to you to get your entire family out of this bad situation.
Yeah.
Um, and I think he's looking around like, well, why can't I just cut some corners? Why do I have to keep doing this? It's like, and I think we see throughout the show, Lonnie more and more feels like, I'm tired of having to live up to this. I'm tired of having to do this or do that. Why can't I take this route to get to the same way? Um, and I think that's such a great story, but it's so sad to watch because it didn't have to be that way. He could still be in school. He could still be star quarterback and
Mhm.
have his girl and everything. And uh, I can't wait to see what they do with him in the next season. Because you have also not just a parallel of Peter becoming a superhero and him going off to be what he's going to become. He's further along in school than Peter, and so the first season is Peter's freshman year, uh, and and in contrast, I think it's Lonnie's last year because he's a junior, correct?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
But he's a junior, and so he makes the decision to leave school, and it's like school's out, like. And it's this metaphor of Peter going into the world still fresh faced and trying to figure everything out. And no, this whole season is Lonnie figuring out he's not a kid anymore and he has to grow up. And
Mhm.
he leaves behind all of these things. And that's why it's so significant that he leaves the Letterman jacket at the end of the season.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. And by the way, we don't tend to see animated characters change clothes all that often. You know what I mean? Like, they wear the Scooby Doo gang's been wearing the same clothes for 40 years, 50 years, whatever it is now. So,
Yeah, I mean, I would assume we're gonna eventually see Peter ditch the glasses, because he
yeah,
did wear the glasses for the entire season. He goes through uh multiple different costumes in the season. He goes through his homemade costume, and all the way up through his current costume. We get to reveal the current costume. So good.
so good. Yeah, for sure. I love the costume debacle. He's like, it's not me. It's not working.
Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's main event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com.
I didn't hate the white one, honestly. Did that come from one of the PlayStation games? I'm guessing.
It's from the Future Foundation.
Okay.
It's when Peter joined Fantastic Four after Human Torch passed away, and they refashioned the group as the Future Foundation during the Hickman
Mm,
run.
gotcha. Yeah.
And that was when the group was wearing the white outfits. That's why his Spider-Man suit was white.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm here for it. I mean, I know that they're going to sell in the red and blue, and that's fine. But I love the idea of multiple costumes based on what he needs, kind of like Batman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean that fits Spider-Man like to a T because he's had so many looks over the years. He's had so many different adjustments to his costume. And so I love the idea that he eventually ended up with his suit and he kept trying to tell Norman the whole time, like, this isn't me. Uh, I love that. I love that he's trying to get Norman to listen to him at certain points and he's just not listening to him. And the guy that is listening to him is his best friend and Harry Osborn. And in turn, Harry has been trying the entire season to try to get Norman to listen to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Harry and Norman, we've got Zeno Robinson as Harry, Coleman Domingo as Norman. Man, how'd they get Coleman Domingo? Because, wow, what a get, man. What a great idea for this.
Coleman Domingo is so good in this show that I almost feel like nobody else should play Norman once they're ready to put Norman in the movies.
I'd love it. I think he'd be perfect.
He's so good here. He does all of the quieter moments where you want to believe that this is a good guy. He does all of that stuff well. He does all of the ruthless and underhanded stuff well as well. He's commanding. He's soft at times. He's great. The the first inkling where I started to see, oh, Norman's not on the up and up. When he goes to the prison and has that conversation with Doc Ock, and he is just an outright jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, the voice acting in that scene is so good. Yeah, he's fantastic here, and kudos to Jeff Tramiel to being the first guy to go, no, Norman is black. Why else would his hair look like that?
Why did it take us all these years to put two and two together on that?
Yeah, why does this guy's hair look like that? Why is his hair wavy? He's got to be black.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm with you. I don't think, I mean, you know, and I think no matter what version, whether it's Tom Holland's version or if they do a live action Miles Morales, I don't think it matters. I think he should absolutely be Norman. I think that is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think the stuff with race that people will be upset with this is Norman. It doesn't feel like they've changed anything to make him like Black Norman. This is Norman Osborn. Like this is the essence of that character. He's just a different race, and I don't feel like they did anything here that is an affront to what you would think of this character. I think if anything, they got the right voice actor to play the character, and they made some smart changes. I think the changes they made with Harry are also smart in the current landscape where, of course, this guy's very rich and in a day and age where people keep up with what wealthy people are doing and what influencers are doing, and him having a presence online, that makes all the sense in the world.
And you know, the Osborn's character is not informed by his race at all. Like,
yes,
at all. Like we've said this before multiple times here on this show, but like trying to portray Bruce Wayne and the Wayne family as African American is going to be difficult because they come from old money, right?
Yes, doesn't work.
Right. So like you could maybe do another, you know, ethnic background, but even then would it work? Like I don't know. But Osborn has never been portrayed as, I mean, to me the character always seemed like he's a self-made guy. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how far they went in the comics because I'm not sure. But like Lex Luthor has his dad, so Lex came from money, but it always felt like Norman kind of made his own way in the world.
Yeah, I mean, he's had to scrape his way to the top. That's always been a Norman thing, and he's taken some unsavory routes to get to where he wants in life. And so I don't think that any of that doesn't fit with him being a black man. I think it's fine. Uh, like I said, everything what they do here with Norman and Harry's dynamic is great. That twist that they do on the great power and comes great responsibility. Very smart for
Very
Norman
smart.
to be this guy that, of course, Norman isn't gonna give him good advice. He's Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
And you gotta realize, what does Norman value more than anything? He wants to be respected.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that would be his advice to Peter Parker. No, with great power comes great respect. And you got to do whatever you can to make sure people respect you. That is such a Norman Osborn thing to say in every iteration we've seen him in.
Yeah, and it's just different enough to where that's a problem. Like, that's a worldview. Like, you have to fear me. I'm going to be over you. Like, no, that's not what. And I mean, Peter gets away from it in the end, but like, no, that's not what he needs to hear. I mean, it's
not what a kid needs to hear.
No, not at all. It's too much responsibility. Well, that being said to you is too much responsibility in and of itself.
A kid doesn't understand that. It's just
No.
like if I come in and tell a kid without context, hey, the world is not fair.
Yeah.
It's gonna desensitize a kid. It's gonna teach them the wrong lesson without you telling them, hey, the world is not fair sometimes, but we got to roll with the punches, and you have to do the best that you can.
Mhm.
Just giving him that advice is terrible advice. But of course, it's advice that Norman would give to a kid. When you look at the way that Harry goes through life, yeah,
Mhm.
not exactly father of the year.
No, not exactly. No. And kids, by the way, it's worth mentioning here that Zeno Robinson, who is portraying Harry Osborn, has done a lot of voice work, and you may know him as Cyborg in the 2019 Young Justice series. And yeah, he was Lando in Lego Star Wars All Stars in 2018. He was Randy Robertson in 2017 Spider-Man. And that was the replacement for the previous series, Ultimate Spider-Man. First season premiered on August 19, 2017 on Disney XD. And he's also done a lot of other voice work too. Yeah, really good stuff, man.
Yeah.
It fits it too. You know what I mean? Both of them do, honestly.
Yes. I think when we talked about the first two movies from the Home series and how he very much has that version of MJ that's hanging around that likes him, and he doesn't see that she likes him. And it's very much the Winona Ryder character from Lucas. He spends all this time being the nerd that's pining after the most popular girl in school, and he doesn't realize like the girl that's sitting right next to him really likes him.
Yeah.
And they kind of do the same thing here to a degree with Nico, and I think that's part of why she's so upset that he would hide something from her, or that he would consider somebody else his friend. Because I mean, for the longest time in the comics, Harry Osborn is his best friend. And so to start this show with her as his best friend, and then you bring in this guy, it's just, well, no, I'm his best friend.
And she's got a problem with the Osborns, buddy, for sure.
And, to her credit, she's kind of right about the Osborns. Not necessarily Harry, because Harry's just, as we find out in all of these iterations, just in a bad situation, raised by a man that does not know how to raise a kid.
Right.
Yeah. So but I think that's what's so great about Harry here as well. It's like, you really want to like Harry, and you see a lot of the good things in Harry throughout this series, but you can see that he's just doomed to repeat some of his father's mistakes because of who he was raised by.
Yeah, and I love how everybody, like, he and Harry are really building a nice little relationship that you get the feeling that something's going to interrupt it at some point. Something's definitely probably going to go south because that's sort of the Spider-Man character's entire existence is everything just goes wrong. But I kind of don't want to see it because I'm kind of here for it. Hugh Dancy as Otto Octavius, by the way. Hugh Dancy, because I don't think we've mentioned him yet.
Yes.
I don't know a lot about that guy either, honestly.
I don't either, but I thought he was perfect here. I think he
Yeah.
sounds like what I would expect Doc Ock to sound like. The Doc Ock scenes in the show are great. Like I said, his rivalry with Norman is perfect.
Mhm.
I popped at, and this is just how much of a Spider-Man fan I am, when he said the Dias Cast, which is kind of like his catchphrase. He uses it a lot during the Superior Spider-Man run. I popped big when he said
That's
the Dias
good.
Cast.
By the way, I love that he looks like Doc Ock
Yes.
from the book from the 70s and 80s. Like, I freaking am here for it, man.
Yes, I think his look is perfect. The way that they introduce the tentacles at one point, but we don't get fully formed Doc Ock yet. I thought that was great. And this was another time where they teased us what we think we know about Spider-Man mythos, and then completely flipped it on his head. When we first see those those thugs going to him and getting the tech, I'm like, oh, it's the Tinkerer. Right?
Yeah.
And then when we find out it's Doc, it's like, oh, okay.
Nice little twist. Speaking of twists, did you know that Charlie Cox is in this show as Daredevil before you watched it?
I didn't, but in some of the previews they were showing for some of the episodes, they showed the interaction between him and Daredevil. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then when I realized it was Charlie Cox doing the voice, I was like, oh, that's great.
I love it. We were talking about him off mic. Like, I love this guy. Dude, I as you know, when you sign up for Marvel, you're probably signing up for multiple projects. I mean, he could have said no, right? I mean, I'm not a voice actor, guys. Maybe you'd find somebody else. Dude, he's all in. It gives me more reason to love Charlie Cox, if I'm being honest. I love it.
Yes. Yeah, he was great in the small cameo we got from him. He appears later in the show to give us the reason why he was in the cameo he was in, which I thought was also very smart.
Mm-hmm.
The side character that they brought in, man, they have the people that put this thing together. They've done all their homework. Because when they told us who the character was, I was like, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. That I mean, I hope we see more of him. By the way, we know that wasn't Downey as Iron Man, but like, do you think they may pull another one out of their hat and get another voice actor? I mean, I guess anything's possible, but I don't know if you want to do too much of that. Who else you think would make sense? We've seen Iron Man and we've seen Doctor Strange. You think anybody else maybe could show up in season 2?
I think we'll see Cap for sure. Cap is referenced. They reference the Accords here.
That's true.
Because in this timeline, he does not go to help Iron Man in Berlin.
That's right. He does not.
But they do mention the events of Civil War and the Sokovia Accords. So I do think we'll see Cap eventually because he didn't interact with Cap in the same way as he did in the main timeline. So he's got to interact with him at some point here.
Yeah.
And he was in that picture in Norman's office. I believe we'll see Cap eventually.
Yeah, that's I'm looking forward to it. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, but they put so many other through lines to other characters, like the character from Wakanda that was in the think tank that looks a lot like Shuri.
Yeah, she does, man. Yeah, right? Why didn't they just... I guess you don't make her Shuri for several different reasons, but I was kind of hoping it would be.
Yeah, she looks a lot like Shuri, so there's already the hint of Wakanda. They had Amadeus Cho here, so there's obviously a tie to the Hulk if they want to go in that route. They set up so many like small tie-ins where if you know the name of this character, I was like, oh, okay, well, we're definitely gonna see this character later.
Yeah. Let's see. We've also got Kathy Ang as Pearl. We've got Erica Luttrell as Lincoln and Andre's mom. We've got, we said Asha from Wakanda, as we said, Roger Craig Smith as Phil Grayfield, the coach of the Bales football team. We've also got, let's see, Smith also voices, let's see, Speed Demon and Chameleon. And let's see, and John Gallo. So he does multiple things here. Anjali Kunapanini, I think, as Gene Foucault / Finesse. Let's see, Alexis Lee as Amadeus Cho, who we mentioned. Paul F. Tompkins as Bentley Whitman. Zara Fazal as Carla Connors. What did you think about taking Dr. Connors and making Dr. Connors female? That's a different twist for sure.
I didn't mind it. I mean, if people didn't mind, it's an alternate universe. We had a
Yeah.
female Doc Ock in the Into the Spider-Verse movies. What's the problem with this? I thought it was fine. And it's the same dynamic between Kirk Connors and Peter in this version of Dr. Connors and Peter, where it's
Have we
somebody
seen,
that mentored him.
by the way, great call. Have we seen a female lizard before?
I believe so.
Hmm.
I could be wrong. I thought we have in a comic at some point.
Look, dude, Phil, in my opinion, you get, I mean, of course, you can get a different take when you change the character's race, obviously. But I kind of feel like you get more of a difference when you change genders because, you know, is this going to be the same turn? Will it be the same, you know, female sensibilities are not the male sensibilities? Like, I think there's a lot of cool, fun stuff they could do when it comes time to turn her into the lizard.
Yes. And I think it works because it's the same dynamic that we know from the comics of, oh, this is somebody that is his friend and his mentor.
Mm.
And, you know, something tragically goes wrong and they end up being his enemy. That's Spider-Man 101. It doesn't matter what her race or gender is. That's still the through line of Spider-Man's rogue gallery.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Let's see. We've also got Etor Ewan as Bulldozer, Lalani Barrett as Big Donovan.
You can't gloss over Etor, Big E.
No. No, not at all. By the way, I was just looking at Bulldozer, man. What a freaking great. Yeah, dude. A member of the 110th Street Gang. He is getting around too because he was also Big E. There's a show I started watching called Laid. Have you heard of that?
I have not, but I know that he was in it.
Yes. Very, very, very minuscule part. It's hilarious. It's really good. Yeah. I love that he's doing other stuff, by the way. But no, as Bulldozer, yeah. And look, I was Big Donovan as the leader of the gang. What a great voice that guy has, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought that he fit perfectly. I thought his character arc throughout the first season was great as well.
Yeah.
Is the 110th Street Gang from a Spider-Man comic, and I'm missing it?
It sounds familiar, but I couldn't tell you if it is.
I'm sure. Like I know that's been movies. I know there are tons of ties to New York and 110th Street. There's of course the Bobby Womack song. Um, I'm trying to think Spider-Man comics. I'm probably forgetting it.
I mean, they've put so many other Easter eggs in here for you. Like, I'm sure it's probably connected to something.
Yeah, but
I
I mean
would guess.
that's such a big part of Spider-Man comics, like the gangland stuff and
Yeah.
the mob stuff. So I'm sure it is. I just have forgotten.
Yeah, I'm not used to seeing Big E called by his real name. And I kept thinking, where is he in the cast? I know he's here somewhere. And then, yeah, the name threw me. Let's see. Anaris Quinones as Carmilla Black. If I'm butchering any one of his names here, kids, my apologies. She's done some voiceover work as well. Mirko in My Hero Academia. I've never gotten into that, but I keep hearing it's awesome. Like, have you ever gone down that rabbit hole?
Great anime. I'm all the way
Really?
up to date. Great show.
I may have to check that out, man. let's see. She also voices Maria Vasquez in the show. Jonathan Medina as Matt Gargan / Scorpion. Is this the most killer version of Scorpion we've seen on TV or a movie to this date?
It feels like the route they were gonna go with Scorpion in the movie if they would have kept going after the first movie, because of course, they did reference Scorpion. It's the same guy that's in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad fame, and they reference him in jail, but they never go back to the character. So, but they definitely make Scorpion feel dangerous. They make him feel as dangerous as he felt in the comics at one point.
Yeah.
I thought that this was a great use of him. That cliffhanger with him was I did not expect that at all, because we had seen everything work out for Peter up to that point, and so the second it got serious.
Yeah. I kept thinking he's going to kill him. Like, I know it's not going to end.
Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you.
If we didn't know anything about these characters, you'd like, well, he's going to get killed today. Like, that's it, because he couldn't compete with anything he was doing.
I wonder if this was intentional. This could be, again, I'm just a Spider-Man fanatic. But the idea of Peter getting beat senseless and one of his goggles is busted and you can see half of his face. And the thing that ends up saving him is the Goblin glider. That can't have been.
Oh my God. I did not put that together. Great stuff, man. Yeah. How soon are we going to get, or how soon is it going to be before we get the Green Goblin, you think? Season 2?
I think you've got to let this stuff with him and Norman develop. This is going to be a slow burn before we get the complete heel turn. We got somewhat of the heel turn towards the end of this season because now we set up that Peter doesn't trust him. But it's gonna. I don't think we're gonna see it until well into at least the second season. But the fact that they referenced the Goblin or glider early on tells me we'll see him soon.
And I love that Norman Osborn's wearing green throughout the whole series.
Yes, they definitely throw a lot of nods to the Green Goblin throughout the show.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the unspoken thing. It's several turns.
See, we've also got Kellen Goff. That's the I guess it's this symbiote. They didn't call it Venom or anything because that's not what anybody here knows this to be. This would, I mean, a piece of it stays behind, like, right? So, like, we're going to see a Venom in season 2, I assume.
Yeah, I would assume we're going to see Black Suit Spider-Man very soon as well. They definitely threw some hints to that. And again, what a great way to swerve us and making us thinking that creature that came out of the portal came from another dimension. But with the stuff that we get by the end of the show, very much makes it clear that it's from space.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good. Yeah. We've got, let's see. Also we've got Vincent Patillo as Octavius' assistant. Robin Atkin Downs as Dr. Stephen Strange. I thought he did a bang-up job for it not having been Benedict Cumberbatch. He's an English actor known for his work in animation. We've got the great Phil Lamar as Peter's science teacher and Lonnie and Andre's father. Like, how you not going to hire Phil Lamar when you do anything animated, man?
Yeah, legend Phil Lamar.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Jake Green as Butane. Matty Martinez as Andre Lincoln. That's Lonnie's younger brother. Alex Desert as Grift. Travis Willingham as Mikhail let's see, as as Mikhail Sistovich, a Russian criminal, um, also known as he was the Rhino. Yes,
Yes.
yeah. So Thaddeus Ross, that's also Travis Willingham, by the way. We got Sarah Noceni. I told you there was a bunch of people as Mila Masaryk and Unicorn. Zach Cherry as Clev, I think.
Yeah.
Mick Wingert as Tony Stark / Iron Man. And Josh Keaton, of course, as Richard Parker. Man, I need a nap after that. The
Yeah.
character, by the way, spoiler alert, the character Gwen Stacy / Spider-Gwen is set to appear in the second season.
Yeah, I mean, it's Gwen. I would assume we're gonna see Gwen. It's and just with the popularity of Spider-Gwen, not too surprised. It's alternate universe. Not too surprised we were gonna see her. But yeah, I love that they've already done so many obscure Spider-Man villains. They didn't go straight to the big heavies. It would have been easy for the cliffhanger of this show, for the final season, for the first season to be okay. Norman's already on the board, but you've already set up so many smaller villains that the big ones like Doc Ock and of course Venom, those are gonna be a big deal down the line.
Yeah. Man, it's funny because going to the comic convention every year, like it was multiple Harley Quinns
Yes.
for 5 years in a row. And then it was like multiple Spider-Gwens for like 5 years in a row.
Yeah. Deadpool, I don't care when you go to a con, there's always a lot of
Yes.
Deadpools. I had a debate with a friend because I said part of the Deadpool Wolverine thing was them finally getting Gambit right. I was like, Gambit is so popular. And my friend was like, no, he's not. I was like, dude, Gambit is insanely popular. If you go to Comic Cons, there's always a ton of people dressed like Gambit. People love Gambit.
Yeah, there's always Batman. There's always Spider-Man. There's always some Wonder Woman. But yeah, the heavy hitters for sure always get play at comic conventions for sure. But always a lot of Spider-Gwens. My goodness.
Yes. Yeah. That's a new thing. Like you said, a lot of Harley Quinns, of course. And I mean, there's always a lot of Spider-Man too, but yeah. Yeah, Gwen getting this new life as Spider-Gwen is so interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Well, kids, there's your cast. I know we talked a lot about this. It's something that we did not mention, which I kind of wanted to lead off with, and then we got deep into the show here. But one of the things a lot of people were getting upset over was the animation. And here's what I'll say. When I saw a clip, and the complaint of the clip was the characters in the background aren't moving. And my first thought was, well, that's lazy. Like, all right, if the whole show's like this, maybe they went for an effect and it doesn't work. Then I watched the show and I'm like, oh, I see. You took one clip out of an entire episode and said the animation doesn't work. Like, dude, they couldn't be further from the truth, man.
It's very clear what they're trying to do with this style of animation and stuff not moving in the background. They're trying to replicate what panels of a comic look like. And there's so many like scenes where they do the paneling and they switch it around. And that's why it's so important to just watch the shows because I know that there's limitations to 3D, and it looks like what they do, if I had to put my nerd animation student glasses on, it looks like they do a blend of both traditional animation and they do some 3D with cell shading here. And the 3D stuff, I don't care how well you do the 3D stuff. There's a stiffness to 3D animation that you're always going to notice. And so I think sometimes it's very noticeable where they're going between the 3D and traditional stuff, but you can very much tell the look that they're trying to go for. And I think when you look at it in that way, I think that they achieved the look of trying to make it look like an old Spider-Man comic.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's well done. If people want to complain, I don't like the animation style. I get that. Like, I do understand that. But I don't know. I think to immediately discount this show as if it's all garbage is not fair at all.
No, it's very clear that there was an intent of what they want this to look like, and I think it's successful. Now, is that going to be for everybody? No, I've talked to multiple people that they can't get an anime because they just don't like how it looks. For some people, they can't get past the visual aspect of it, and I can't force anybody to like something that I like, of course, but I think some of the stuff about the animation was a bit over exaggerated. I think it was a lot of people, like you said, watching clips online and not actually watching the show.
Yeah. It seems to me that's what happened. That people just picked random clips out of a lineup and said, "Oh, bad show." Yeah, I don't get that. I just don't understand the desire to hate it. I don't know. I drive myself crazy just thinking about it because I'm trying to reconcile why people are so freaking stupid, and why they choose to be just choosing to be mad all the time and hate everything. Just don't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just don't watch if it's not for you. I don't get that.
Yeah, and it's what I said before. People don't like new. I think the economics around animation have changed a lot.
Mhm.
And before when it be like dozens of people in studios putting these things together, and taking the time to draw all of these in betweens and these sheets. It's just not like that anymore. A lot of this stuff is done digitally, and for some people, they haven't gotten past, no, my childhood is like hand drawn traditional animation. It's just not how animation is done anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, if it's not for you, I guess it's fine. Um, but I don't know, Phil. I feel like if you're a Spider-Man fan, you could take something from this. I don't know.
Yeah, there's so much to love about this show if you're a Spider-Man fan.
Yeah.
Um, so much. I mean, there's so much rich history that they use here. There's so many things that they take and they add an interesting twist to it. There's so many great nods to multiple iterations of this character that is
Mhm.
hard to not love.
Yeah, that's true. There's a little something here. Something here for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I think if you're just a fan of the movies, there's enough here um, that references the MCU movies, for example, or there's enough here where they do like subtle nods to uh, the original Sam Raimi trilogy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, well, I'm anxious to see season 2. I knew the end was coming because I binged a lot of them in 2 days. So I knew it was coming, and I'm like, "Oh crap, that must have been the last one." When I got there, but yeah. And by the way, I don't know if we've called this out. People complaining about the animation. The web swinging looks really good in this cartoon, man.
Yes, I love the way that they depicted his web shooters early on with the
Mm.
hoses, and like because I think this is the first time we've seen any show or any kind of media do like early versions of his web shooters before he streamlined them and got them down to the cartridges.
Yeah, usually what you see is the final version.
Yes. So I love that we got to see the making of his tech along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's something different. So what are you hoping for in season 2? I mean, what are you hoping to see?
Definitely more of the high school drama that makes Spider-Man comics great. And I think that they did it so well in the MCU movies. So more of that, more of obscure characters. I hope we see like Shocker and like some of these small villains in
Yeah.
some places here. And more of like his relationship with Norman, because I thought that was easily some of the best stuff from this season is the character interactions with him, and definitely sadly to see where Lonnie ends up. I mean, we all know where it's starting to head, but his story was so interesting that I can't wait to see more of that character.
I mean, you think something anytime anyone turns on Spider-Man, it seems like it's because of a perceived wrongdoing on Peter's part, you know? But like I wonder what that's going to be attributed to. If it's going to be Peter accidentally, or in Lonnie's mind, accidentally does something, or I don't know. But it kind of feels like it's, oh, you betrayed me, so I have to do this now.
Well, think about it this way: if he ever finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, he can look at it like, well, wait a minute. You were Spider-Man all this time. You could have helped other people, and this is what you were doing. And there's the conflict of interest here. He likes his girl. Like, is this what you were doing? Just trying to hang around and steal my girlfriend? And there are some easy misunderstandings that could come of this.
That's true. Yeah. He's kind of on his own. I mean, he's got Nico there if something becomes of that, but he doesn't really have any backup. Of course, when did Spider-Man ever really have any kind of full-time backup anyway?
Spider-Man is such a great character because you always get a sad cliffhanger with him, and then I'll get excited because I'm like, oh, this is Spider-Man. Like, this is the character I know and love. Like, I I laughed thinking about No Way Home and how excited I was at the end of the movie, and his life was completely ruined by the end of that movie.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's got the same thing here where he asked Doctor Strange, he was like, oh, if you can see the future, what's to come? And he doesn't really tell him, and he's just like, he just has to figure it out. And he's excited about where things going to go. We get this great scene of him swinging through the city, and he's excited. And then all of this stuff is happening behind the scenes while this is happening, and it's really bad. And he doesn't realize any of this is happening. But that Spider-Man, like, he's all of this stuff that he's done comes with consequences. And it's like all of his friend group now, he's got friends. This could easily go left on him. Like the Harry thing is just bound to go left. And there's so many other situations. He doesn't realize what's going on with Lonnie and how that's getting ready to go left. He doesn't realize what's going on with Nico either. Everything in his life, there's something. I mean, the cliffhanger with May. Poor guy.
Yeah.
He just can't catch a break.
No, he can't. Forever tortured. He is the most Shakespearean of the Marvel characters, I've always believed. So, kids, there you have it. There is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And, as with a lot of things we cover here, we could probably do another hour and a half talking just about season 1 because there's so much good, great stuff that happened here. I end this show perplexed and not understanding why people hate everything. I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, but I'll tell you this, and I said off mic, and I don't care. My name's on the show. I'll stick to it. I won't run from it. I feel like when every day when I read, well, I don't like this. If it features minorities, the primary group of people making noise is white men. So shame on you. At this point in time, like, I'm over it. Like, and look, if you are a white guy and you feel that way, you don't necessarily have to join the chorus, and you may not be racist at all.
No.
But Phil, it's a bad look, man.
I promise you, nothing is being taken away from you. It's okay.
Nothing.
Sometimes things are being improved. Sometimes things are being improved to include other people's experiences, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that something's being taken away from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't say any better. Like I said, no one's coming to take anything away. There's all sorts of ways to get a hold of your childhood, and there's, if you can't find them on streamers, you can find it on YouTube. You can go to comic conventions and get bootleg DVDs if you still want to get them. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to get your childhood, man.
Buddy, if you don't like this show and you don't like change, they have every Spider-Man cartoon there is to watch that you want to watch on Disney Plus. You can go and watch the animated series. You can go and watch Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends if you want. You can watch all of the movies. All the movies are on Disney Plus now.
Yep.
If you don't like this, there is something for you somewhere.
Yeah. Well, unless you hate that too, in which case, I don't know what to tell you.
Buddy, and the thing that I will say all the time as an older guy that at one point hated change as well. There's always the books. You can always go and buy some comic books. Go
Yeah.
support comic books.
Yeah, and dude, I look at Once Upon a Time. I was one of those people that didn't like the change at all. I was like, I don't understand why can't you just create other characters? Why do you consistently have to change? But after a while, that starts to fall flat because I look at my bookshelf and I still got a ton of DVDs, or I look at the streaming options I have and I look at my comics. And I'm like, well, I still got this. Like, they ruined the Transformers. They didn't ruin them for me. But in my opinion, they ruined that franchise. I don't think anything we see on the big screen today is anywhere close to what the animated series did in the 80s. And I know a lot of it's hokey. I get it. I've still got it all, and I grew up with it. But I just, the way they thumbed their nose at the hardcore fans when they made those films, changing all the cars so they could cash in and get sponsorships, stop. That is not the Transformers. And I don't care what you call it. So I don't have to like it, and I don't watch it. And I still have my original, and I'm happy. But that's where I'm at, Phil. I don't really care. They can change whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's theirs to change. I don't own any of it.
Yeah, Hasbro or any of these other companies that do these things, they want to make money off of these things. And whether you like it or not, they're going to try and find a way to make money off of these things. You get to decide with your money in your wallet, do you want to support this? And if you don't. But
Don't. Yeah.
spending all your time online complaining because this thing was not for you particularly, you can find something else to do. It's okay.
I was going to say, there's a lot of other hobbies I could get into besides doing that.
It's okay. And look, this show might not be for everybody. I personally loved it. But there's so many other things that you can watch. I mean, I have Spectacular Spider-Man on Blu-ray right now. If I wanted to just watch that, if I didn't like this show. And you can still watch the animated series. Some of that stuff has not aged great, but some of that stuff is also just as great as we remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I went back and because I got the Battle of the Planets, all of that on bootleg DVD. And I popped a few of them in here and there, and I'm like, yeah, some of this is not awesome. It's just it's moving slow. The animation is not great, but as a kid, I remembered it being fantastic.
Yeah. Every time I see the clips of Black Suit Spider-Man yelling at the top of his lungs when it pops up on social media now, I'm like, this voice actor was trying to get every cent, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna earn my paycheck.
He was great. And some of that animation around it, they're great.
Yeah, I mean, but well, like we said, kids, if it's something you're into and you've got your hands on it, or you can get your hands on it, please go be happy. We got too much nonsense happening right now for people to rally against a freaking animated series. I'll never get that. Just don't get it. But you can better believe we'll be here for season 2 of the show. But Phil, before we take it home here, let's get your last word, at least for now, on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Great show, I think. Cannot get out of here without saying thank you and rest in peace to Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita Sr., all of the guys that made Spider-Man the character that he is, because this show and so many other things would not have happened without those creators.
Yeah, for sure. No other way to say it. Without them, we don't get anything. And pay the comic book creators, Marvel and DC.
Yes.
Because without them, you don't have a company. And without them, we don't have all this entertainment we're getting today, for sure. So, well, there you have it, kids. Another episode in the books. Stay tuned for a lot more. There's a lot more to come. And thanks, as always, for subscribing and downloading and all that great stuff. And we'll be back again with another one. But for now, that is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.